Welcome back to Trading 360. I'm Diane King Hall. Time now for the big three stocks, three charts, and three trades. Rick Ducat will take us through the charts, and here to take us through the trades is Don Kaufman, co-founder of Theo Trade. All right, it is great to be with both of you. Don, before we get into your trades today, I want to get your big picture take today, especially we've got this new deal news. It's not a company deal news, it's trade deal news between the U.S. and Japan. What's your reaction, especially when you take into account the market reaction? Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I look at the marketplace right now and it's there is no reaction. I mean, this is a little bit of the same as yesterday. Maybe there's a little bit more volume in the overnight futures contracts, but generally speaking, right now in the marketplace that we're seeing a bit of a rotation. It's not necessarily out of tech just yet, but tech is not being bought this week. And well, we have a lot of other securities. In fact, we're going to talk about a couple of those that are on the bid throughout the course of this week.
Okay, so let's talk about your first trade. We've been talking today a lot about GE Vernova because of earnings, and that's been an outperformer today. But let's talk about its sister, essentially, GE Aerospace, or brother, however you want to call this one. Tell us about your views on this one.
Yeah, GE Aerospace. So let me start with the fact that earnings had just recently come out. We may have actually seen kind of a key reversal in and around this $272 level. And again, the reversal came literally right off the earnings announcement. We've got some sell side activity. At this point, I wouldn't say that this is an all-out sell, but I am going to hop on and just try to sustain myself for a little bit more of downside activity, specifically to GE. Maybe again, that bid under the marketplace is no longer being sustained. There's going to be again some sell side activity in here. As such, I'm just going out to the August 15th expiration, so it's fairly short, like 3 weeks out. I'm just going to buy the 255 puts, sell the 250 puts. It's a $5 wide put spread for a $1.50 debit. Just looking for some continued sell side activity here in the near term.
Okay, all right. So, Rick, then take us through what you notice about this chart. Yes, overall, it's been an outperformer year to date, but Don makes some great points about what he's noticing in patterns recently.
Hey, what goes up must come down eventually. Nothing goes straight up forever, in nature. And, we can see the point here that we had a notable high point here, our green line here, 257 or so, pretty close, 255, 257, that general area. Also, that coincides with our 21-day EMA near 255 as well. So a breakdown below that point could trigger a move back to the lower end of this trend line here. We have our notable low point here after a steep rally, connecting these subsequent lows here. That would give us a boundary roughly around that 250 level as well here. You can just duplicate the trend line, put it across the highs, happens to match up fairly well here. That's about where price topped out recently. That would be another potential resistance point to look for going forward here. You can also see that we have seen a situation where we had this very sharp rally off of these lows here from here to here, almost a straight shot to the upside, but it started to moderate. You can see the trend shifted to a more gradual upward slope, still trending upward to be sure, and still holding on above this old supportive area. But the momentum is starting to slow. We can see gradual lower highs on our RSI momentum indicator despite price making higher closes. Now we can see as well a green trend line in play as well. So a mixed picture as we kind of look to the next possible breakout area for this stock here. So if we were to look at our volume profile study, we can see that the volume is heavier around this 250 area once again. So 250, let's say 260 to 245 or so. That is an area where there's quite a lot to consider in terms of potential support, the standout areas in particular, 255 and 250. And then even moving lower, 235 would be a notable price area. That's where the volume really starts to drop off as well. If we were to take a look to the upside, though, we've got our channel boundary and our old highs here near about 273. That would be another area to watch.
Okay, so Don, that level that Rick just finished with, 273, is a level to watch. Obviously, that's not what you would want to say. Any things that you want to consider as it relates to this? I know you do have a short time window with this one.
Yeah, it's a relatively short time window. And again, I'm just kind of hopping on this most recent trend, which is a reversal from that all-time high. Look, one of two things is going to occur here. We're probably either going to consolidate, in the near term and or break lower. I'm actually going to take the break lower. That consolidation, down the road might actually lead to some new highs. But again, what's been really hot in this marketplace as of late isn't in just the last couple of trading sessions, and that's exactly why I'm hopping on trend here to the downside in GE Aerospace.
All right, let's talk about the next ticker on your list. That's XLU, utilities ETF here. It has outperformed year-to-date the S&P 500. And you mentioned earlier that rotation pattern that you're noticing. I'm starting to hear that more and more from different people that we talk to. What's your view on this one?
Well, the XLU, the utilities ETF, to me, this one's a little bit disconcerting. So why are we seeing utilities, which I think the dividend is somewhere about 2.64%? Why is this thing not just bidding up? I mean, this is a substantial move to the upside. So one of two things, like, is there just nothing left to buy? And all of a sudden, like, that's it. We've got to put our capital towards utilities. I don't think you can make too many arguments right now. Nuclear power obviously has moved up, but utilities, this is completely old school, and it looks extraordinarily defensive to me. Now, even though I'm actually building a bullish trade here, as I said to you, I think it has, implications to the broader marketplace. The bullish trade I'm actually building in here, this one I'm going to give a little bit of time because, again, this could be a defensive move, and that defensive move could be underway for a significant period of time. I'm going all the way out to the September 19th expiration. I'm going to be buying the 85 calls, selling the 90 calls. This one's actually done for in and around $1 debit, although the trade may have already gotten away from us as there's some pretty good movement inside of all things utilities. You got to realize this is low beta stuff that we're talking about that is moving everywhere. This looks like some volatility in what has generally been a very low beta underlying.
Okay, all right. So, Rick, you're up next then. Don just mentioned that point about it being low beta. What do you see when it comes to the chart?
Pretty interesting setup. That's the first thing I thought too, is these are typically more of a sleepy type sector where you don't see the big moves here. But as we had this persistent ceiling around the 83 level, so first, even back here, it was more around 82 or so. Then we squeaked out new highs near 83. We tested them a couple more times here, and here. Then we formed what looked to me kind of an ascending triangle type shape here, where we have horizontal resistance and gradually increasing lows kind of bouncing back and forth between each other. Perhaps not the cleanest example, but really what I look for is just the general price movement here, the idea behind the pattern. I'm not really super worried if it matches up cleanly. We have horizontal resistance overhead and gradually higher lows, and then we had the breakout at that 83 point. So we now have a situation where, well, do we wait for a potential retest of this old resistance level that's now supportive? Or, in the other hand, we run the risk of, as Don said, kind of the trade accelerating to the upside more. You might not get that pullback that you were hoping for, and then you're just, out of luck then for that particular instance here. So 86 is the high point, 86.02 to be more exact here. 83 lines up quite closely with our yellow 21-day exponential moving average, so a bit of support around that general area to consider here. We can also see, if we were to look at our volume profile study, not really super surprising here that most of the volume is concentrated in this area, generally speaking, but really 81 is a relatively noteworthy level in terms of the activity. It also lines up with a few more of our indicators as well. The +2 standard deviation channel based on 1 year projects potential resistance around 86.77 at this time here, possibly.
Okay, all right, Don, let's talk about the final trade you've got on your list. This is over in the financials, and financials have had strong performance so far this year. We often talk about JP Chase, but you're looking at Wells Fargo. It's been an outperformer. Do you expect this to continue?
Yeah, I know this one absolutely pains me deep inside, but yes, I do expect this one to continue. We've seen a lot of underlyings, and this can be tech, this can actually be, some of the financials. I mean, a pretty wide spectrum of underlyings when they're approaching effectively their all-time highs, and they've got pretty substantial market cap, which of course Wells Fargo does. They've been breaking out to the upside. I don't see any reason why this should be any different. And it's doing exactly that right now. You break through 84 on Wells Fargo, this thing could have legs to the upside. And that's exactly how I'm going to trade it. Again, fairly short term over here, because these, like what I call gamma squeezes, these squeezes occur in the near term, and we're right there. 83, 84, we're right in that kind of wheelhouse. So I'm going out to the August 15th expiration. I'm going to buy the 83 calls, and I'm going to sell the 87 calls. This one's done done for a $1.20 debit. Looking for that, if you will, squeeze to not just all-time highs, but through those highs and some legs to the upside. I think 87 could easily be hit.
All right, Rick, you're up. What do you notice about this chart when it comes to Wells Fargo?
Yes, another key resistance level here. This red line, 81.50, was our old high point from back here. That is where we broke above recently. Didn't get a huge surge, but a pretty solid pullback here. We solidified around our trend line, starting with those April lows there, and also pretty close to our 21-day EMA. For the most part, we closed above that indicator. Typically, support during uptrends, resistance during downtrends. Now prices once again crossing above that boundary here. We filled this small gap that we formed on earnings here, a bit of a give back here, but not really breaking any significant boundaries other than that 81.50 level. So if we were to keep moving higher, 83.95 is that high. If we do get that situation, think of it, traders buying calls, dealers have to sell the calls. On the other hand, then the dealers buy stock to cover it. It repeats. It creates a surge to the upside here. The stop orders get triggered when the prices break above certain levels here. You get the cascade and then the breakout here that can lead to, runaway profits. It would be the hope. Nevertheless, momentum was trending downward here out of that overbought area, on the verge of breaking through to the upside once more here. If we were to consider some other levels based on our volume profile study, we can see the bulk of the trading is down here near 73. Not really any clear standout areas as well in terms of volume in the near term, but we can see our 77 level, a frequent stopping point for price, lines up fairly closely with the 63-day EMA. To the upside, +1 standard deviation channel, around 89.50 or so.
Okay, all right. Don, I'm going to yield the floor back to you because you said this one pains me. Is it a personal pain point?
It really is. It definitely is. But you know what? Rick is actually spot on with this one. It's dealer gamma that often actually breaks these to the upside, and I'm just not going to stand in the way of it right now. I mean, the marketplace is still really strong on a relative basis. Look, we are seeing some fading inside of the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is massively unchanged on the week, but that could change tonight with Google earnings. Tesla to a lesser degree. Tesla tends to be its own animal. You start to look at Google, though, that could change the way we feel about the Nasdaq. Right now, we're actually seeing rotation, not necessarily towards tech. It seems like everything else, and Wells Fargo fits right into that.
Oh, you set up nicely. Our next segment, actually, we are going to be taking a look at the tech sector. We'll leave it there, though. That's Don Kaufman, co-founder of TheoTrade, and Rick Ducat, our lead market technician here on Schwab Network. Thank you both, guys.